Hi there, everybody. Welcome back. It is so good to see you. I'm going to give this another Thor shot here. So, Thor, the god Thor, was famous for his hammer. And I was famous for never wanting to go to bed on time and always coming up with some kind of crazy, ridiculous song and dance that would make my parents forget what time it was for at least another good 15, 20 minutes. And then after that, I was famous for never wanting to be late for anything. And then I was famous for having no idea where my house was. And so over the years, my fame has changed. My fame has taken the shape of its container. And the fact is, that's what happens to all of us. We become famous for the thing we do now. We carry our fame and our reputation. However, we're always updating, upgrading, and resetting the expectations that people can look forward to. Now, this book called Fame, which I famously wrote and shamelessly promote as often as I possibly can, was an exercise in talking to a lot of my former TV kids, a lot of my former showbiz kids, and a lot of my showbiz friends, and a lot of people who are in the business of managing those kinds of expectations to discuss this strange phenomenon that people have to have a category to put us in. People need to be able to identify us based on other things that are familiar. So we learn by observing, we learn by imitation, we learn by repetition. Once we do a thing over and over and over again and it becomes a habit, we don't even have to think about it. That's really how we get through life all the time. Could you imagine if every day we had to learn all over again how to tie our shoes? So I was thinking about the topic I wanted to cover today because people are still very tired and very frustrated and very angry and overwhelmed. And I had to go out and deal with a couple of unpleasant errands the other day. And well, Charles, good morning. I'm very well. How are you? I hope everything's okay with you. How's the packing coming? Charles is moving, in the process of moving, and he's rented one of those pod things to hide all their stuff in. And so his whole life is turned upside down because when you're packing, nothing is ever where you think it's going to be. And how odd and how perfect, Charles. I was just saying when you joined me that our habits allow us to just do things because they're familiar and we don't have to think about them. One of the things that's upsetting about packing and moving is that everything is upside down and out of place. Oh, it's super good? Awesome. So the thing about fame is sure, fame is this. Fame is showbiz. Fame is fame and fortune, and people know you and they wave, and they get chauffeured in a limo, and you have an entourage. And it's also the person who was voted employee of the month at the coffee shop. It's also the person you recognize as the mailman, or the letter carrier, the person you recognize as the driver, the courier driver who brings all those packages, so you don't have to go shopping. People become famous not for who they quietly are, but they become famous for the thing we see them do. They become famous to us based on our take of who they are, not for who they really are. One of my kids actually talked about that when I was asking everybody in the book, what is your definition of fame? And one of them said, fame isn't what is happening now. Fame is the echo of the parade gone by. People don't buy tickets to your concert for this show. They buy tickets to your concert based on how they enjoyed the previous show, based on all the memories they have of all the shows and all the albums and all the things that were going on in their lives the last time they heard the songs. So fame is never really about this moment. It's about all the moments that everyone else is thinking about. So this odd thing happened this morning. I was expected to be on a call. It's an important call. And much like what happened yesterday, I was dealing with people who did something that is an absolute no-no. And I didn't give anybody a hard time about it because they hadn't asked me why I was sighing so much. And I haven't had an opportunity to talk to the person today who didn't show up for their call. The fact of the matter is, when people have an expectation of you, it's your job to show up. It's not only your job to show up, it's your job to show up and make them glad they waited for you, to make them feel special. That's how it works. If you show up and say, oh my God, I'm so sorry I'm late, you just have no idea, all of a sudden, this isn't a meeting about the two of us. This is a meeting about me standing there on one leg while you go on about you. That's not what I signed up for. That's not what any of us signed up for. When we go to a store, when we go someplace and we see someone and we say, hi, how are you? The answer should not be, good, and you? If I say, how are you? I'm literally asking how you are. I'm engaging in a conversation with you. I want to know. I'm not saying, hi, how are you? I'm actually asking. And the person who doesn't listen, who hasn't shown up yet, who hears that familiar sentence and just tosses out the familiar answer without really being involved, isn't present and accounted for. And the question I immediately have is, what else is so important that you're not here now? What else are you doing? What else has taken center stage? I went to a lot of trouble to be here for you, with you. What's your excuse? And usually it surprises the daylights out of them. And good. You know why? Because somebody has to say something. Otherwise, no one notices. And there's this really old expression, familiarity breeds contempt. Now, that's a bit extravagant. What it means in more manageable language is, unless we pay attention, we take everything for granted. And I know why. It's not because we have no respect. It's not because we don't care anymore. It's because it's really hard to stay excited. One of the biggest challenges that performers have is not the opening night show. It's the 407th show in the 700 show run. Because the people who bought the ticket for the 407th performance are just as excited and spent just as much hard-earned money and brought just as much anticipation as the people who came opening night, and the people who came the second night, and the night after that, and after that, and after that. The fact that they couldn't come for 406 performances didn't mean that they don't care. It means that this is their moment that they have been waiting for, that they've cherished. So what are you going to do? What are you going to bring to show them that you're in it to win it with them, for them? What are you going to do? So the picture, the thumbnail that I've used on this video is a shot of our kids on You Can't Do That on Television before a take, before a sketch. Now, this is in the later years, and you can tell that by which kids there are. And in the photograph, Doug is there, and Matthew is there, and I think Amnias is there, and I know Stephanie is there. Who is also there is our studio director, Dad, Leslie, and behind him, just barely visible behind the front door of the house, is Dean Carley, our props wizard and magician. Now, what they're doing, the kids are all in pajamas, and their hair is all mussed up, and they've got oversized toys and whatnot. and they all look scruffy and dazed from sleep. They're not scruffy and dazed from sleep. They didn't show up for work at the studio still in their pajamas. They arrived at the studio for their call. And for some, the call was 6 a.m. So it's a Saturday and they're 12. And they had to get up at 4 to have their shower, to eat their breakfast, to get whichever parent it was to start the car and get them to the station, to get them to the studio, to get them on time, to get them into their costume, to get them present and accounted for their slot in the makeup chair. And they're 10. And they still have their scripts, which, by the way, they practiced and rehearsed every weekday after school. They left school, they came to the station, they sat around the boardroom table, and we rehearsed our lines. And it was their job to memorize that content and be ready when it was their time to go on camera. Why? Because that was the job they signed on for. Sure, they're famous. Those kids knew they were famous. We'd already had 7 years of fame. We already knew all around the world that people knew their names. Now it was their job to keep those fans glad they came, to get it right, to be willing to do it again, to care enough to keep the mistakes to a minimum, to be engaged, to listen closely, and then strut their stuff, do their magic, make it work again and again and again. It's easy doing it the first take. It's easy doing it the first day, on the first show, in the first episode. But those kids were there every week, every week. Good morning. I'd be falling asleep in the makeup chair. Oh, you think so? Those kids were not allowed to fall asleep in the makeup chair. There was too much going on because it wasn't just one chair. There were a couple of chairs and everybody was busy and getting going. There's texts coming in, the director's coming in, people conversating. Everybody had something to say. Oops, hang on a second. Just give me a second. Somebody tried to fax me, and I'm going to shut that off. You know why I'm going to shut that off? Because you are the reason I came today. Sorry about making that all crazy. So here's the thing that I'm telling you today. Fame is who they think we are. Fame is what they wish they could be. Fame is our responsibility. Is it fun? Absolutely. Did we have a great time? Of course we did. Are we still having a great time? I'm here. And I'm here with you and for you twice a week, every week. This is episode 121. This is my second year. This is our second year together. Because of you, I have 271 subscribers. My goal is 1,000. So tell your friends, get them to sign up. What I want to do is make this moment for you, with me, on these videos, a moment you say, oh, I'm glad I came. I love watching these things. I have no idea what she's going to do each time. And each time I take away a little something that saves my day, that changes my game. That's the reason I'm here. That's the reason I came. So the funny thing, this morning, I was scheduled for a call. And I was ready. I was ready 20 minutes early. I was sitting facing the front. I was staring at the phone, waiting for it to ring. And it didn't. It didn't ring. How interesting. And I didn't get a call, not before the time, not on time, not after the time. I didn't get a call from a secretary, from somebody apologizing that so-and-so was delayed or late, or the weather was bad, or they had a flat tire, or something happened. Because here it is now after 10, and my call was scheduled for 8:45. And no one has called to apologize. They were busy. You know what? We're all busy. All of us, every day. When I think of the times I have frantically driven down the road with one eye on the road and the other on the clock, thinking, hurry, 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 so I can get there on time, so I don't disappoint. When I think of all the times, all the live shows I've done, when I've been waiting for my co-star to show up, who then strolls in 5 minutes before time. When I think of my morning drive radio stint, when I would sleep through the clock and then wake up when my co-host called and said, "Hi, so I'm going on air in a minute," and I would say, "Gah!" and drive like the hounds of hell were behind me to try and get there on time. I was mortified. I was horrified. You know what I didn't do when I walked in the door? I didn't burden him or our listeners with all the reasons I couldn't wake up that day, because my reasons don't count. If they tuned in to hear us, that's all that mattered. That's all that matters. So in this trying moment that we may find ourselves in, it may be the weather, it may be the fact that that diet that was supposed to lose us 7 pounds by Friday and it didn't, and here it is Tuesday and it still didn't. It may be a health issue. It may be a job uncertainty. It may be something scary, an accident of some kind. It may be just general worry. I have some advice. The brilliance of committing to the moment that we're living gives us permission to free ourselves to be here, to be leaning in, to be listening, to be able to say to the people who showed up for us, "I'm glad you're here. Right now in this moment, you mean everything. And I can't thank you enough." Every day when we got together to do You Can't Do That on Television, whether we were rehearsing, whether the kids were going to acting classes, coaching classes after school with Carol Hay or with me or with any of the other teachers, whether it was going shopping for costumes, whether it was showing up at what time is it on Saturday and Sunday morning for the makeup call, because the kids would be in the chair for however long, but mom took some getting. They had to do a little work on me to become mom. She looked a little older, a little more tired than I do. And so you sit there and then you slog down the hall in your slippers, in your fabulous outfit, darling, and you're there all day. And no matter how many takes they say it's going to take, you need to be there because everyone's counting on you. Not just the people in the studio, not just the kids, not Roger Price, who put his heart and soul in the show, not the crew, not the directors, not the producers, not the people who bought the show, not the advertisers who invested, not the viewers, not the kids whose parents said, "I don't like that show," and the kids going tee hee. Not each one of those individually. We're there showing up for all of it, all of them, every time, all the time. That's my history. That's my story. That one time, that one show. The reason I'm talking about it is that we've connected in some way because of that show. And you can remember details about it. You've seen pictures. So you can see the context I'm giving you. This is true for you. This is true every day. When you go to the grocery store, when you go and get gas, and you go into the convenience store to pay for it, when you see somebody, this happened just the other day. The people got stuck in the snow right outside my house, and I was sitting there at my kitchen table drinking my coffee, and I realized that the driver and the passenger were women, and it suddenly struck me that if I were stuck in that car and I could look across the street and see some women in her pajamas drinking coffee, as soon as I got free, I would want to march over to the house and punch that woman in the head for not caring, for watching like they were a spectator. So I put my coffee down, I got dressed, I picked up a shovel, and I went across the street and I said, "Can I help you?" And they said, "No, it's okay." And I said, I told them what I had been thinking, and they laughed. And they said, "No, no, it's fine. We called a tow truck." And I said, "Do you live around here? I hadn't seen your car before." They said, "No, we're new." And I said, "Oh, well, welcome to the neighborhood." And they were laughing. Now, when I walked up to the car, they weren't laughing. When I was sitting in my house looking at them, they weren't laughing. But when I finished talking to them, they were. When I finished and said, "Have a better day," and I walked away, I'd made a new friend. They'd met someone. They had a story that they could relate about how their ordeal ended. I had something that I could share with you. So every day, no matter what, whether they forgot to call and later on they're going to go, "Oh," whether we see someone stuck in the snow, whether the person in a store just looks exhausted, we have options. We are free to be amazing every time. All we need to do is grab that later folder and write the stuff that's distracting us and set it aside. And we can go back to it when we have time. The question is not, what have you been famous for? The question is, what do you choose to be famous for, starting now? How much excitement are you going to bring every time? That's my challenge to you. And until Thursday, when I'll see you again, I want to say thank you. This wasn't intended to beat you up, and I hope you didn't take it that way. I am so grateful for you. I am so blessed that you joined me all these times, all these videos. This is video 121. Can you believe it? We're in year 2. You make this possible. You make this worthwhile. The least I can do is bring my excitement and show up on time. Maybe even sneak up on you a little early. So whatever's going on, it will pass. Whatever is driving you crazy, it will pass. Whatever makes you laugh, it will come again. Lean into those moments. Lean into these moments. And be good to you. You deserve it. And remember to hug your loved ones. You're amazing. And I'll see you next time.